Hey everyone, I'm Pion and welcome to Spintronics. This is the new game from Upper Story, which is the company that made Turing Tumble, which is a game about building computers with marbles. And this is a game about electrical engineering without any electricity. So it's a quite interesting concept. I have the Kickstarter Edition here, so this is the first act. I also have the second act, and I have the power pack. And we'll take a look inside the boxes today. Well, I already did, but I'll show you what's inside. So let's start with the first act. And similar to Turing Tumble, we have a rulebook, which is not just a rulebook. It's a mix of three different things. So first of all, there's a comic-based story, which is spread throughout the book, following the main character of Natalia and her learning about the concept, or inventing the concept of Spintronics, really. So the comic is interrupted by these explanation pages where the concepts are introduced with pictures and text, and then most importantly there are the puzzle pages. It's one puzzle per page. There's a description box with the task at the top. There is a starting diagram at the bottom. Then there is the part to have available over here, and then there's a difficulty rating on the lower right. There are over 60 puzzles in the book, in the first act, on over 140 pages. At the end of the page, in the last pages on the end of the book, there are also some selected solutions printed out there. I would recommend not using them though. If you are actually getting stuck in one of the puzzles, you should go to the website and check out the hints and solutions over there. First of all, they cover all the solutions and not just a selected amount. And also they have hints that do not spoil the solution for you. So that's the better approach in my opinion. But first of all, you should try getting through it without getting stuck. It's not, at least the start is not really hard. So you should be able to figure it out. But let's take a look at the pieces. So the core piece, the most important part of the game, is the battery, which is not an electric battery. It's based on a spring system. So there's a strong spring inside, and if you pull here, it will discharge the spring and turn the cogs over here. So this is, this works like a battery. It's spinning the cogs instead of spinning electrons around a circuit, but it's the same concept, or has a lot of similar concepts. For example, if you let the battery discharge without any resistance, it will short circuit, the same as an electric circuit will do, for example, in your house. So if you have a short circuit in your house, what happens? The safety kicks in and stops the circuit and breaks the circuit. And we have the same here. So if I let the battery go without resistance, it will not actually discharge. There's a safety installed which will stop it from doing that and will not discharge. So you always want to discharge it with resistance installed. So let's do that, shall we? Let's start. We have the base plates over here, and we can connect them to the battery with these connector pieces over here. And it's pretty straightforward. You plug them in, then you have this nice handy tool over here, and you give them a little twist of 90 degrees, and then you can flip it to pull it out. It's really easy. It works well. So now the cool part, or the really clever piece of design in my opinion, is this is magnetic. So what we can do now is we take a resistor, which is this thing. It's just a bunch of cogs, and they don't spin easily. They have some resistance, right? And we can put it on here, and we can put it wherever we want, which is important because we have to get the chain attached to the battery and the resistor, and they have to be at this exact distance so the chain fits. You can also adjust the length of the chain. I'll show you in a second, but that's a bit more fiddly. So it's easier to like put it over this like this, and then just pull them apart a little bit until the chain fits nicely. And now we can I have to turn this around. I'm right-handed. Let it go and discharge, and you see it's discharging slowly because this is a 500 spin ohm resistor. There are three different resistors in the game, in the base package, in the first act I should say. 200 spin ohm, 1000 spin ohm, and 500 spin ohm. And they have different amounts of resistance. Makes sense, right? Let's take a look at different other parts. We have three base plates, so we have a bunch of room to build if we want to. We have a bunch of chains as well. These actually come disassembled though, because they consist of these little chain links, 300 of them, and you can just, it's really easy to adjust them. You just plug them out like this, and then you have to disconnect it, and you can connect them again, and you can add more pieces or remove pieces. So it's a fairly easy system. They're fairly sturdy, but I somehow still managed to break one already. So they're not indestructible. Be a bit careful with them. But you have 300 in the first act alone, which is plenty, really. The most annoying thing about this, as I said, they come completely disassembled. So you get 300 of these thingies, and to put them all together, you need like 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how fast you are. You don't need to assemble all of them at the start, but you're still sitting there for a few minutes just assembling chains before you can do the first puzzle, which was a bit unfortunate, but hey, here we go. Okay, another important part is the button, the switch. It's pretty straightforward. It has no resistance if it's turned on. It can just spin. And if it's turned off, it cannot spin at all. So it's a pretty simple concept, right? And we can just add it to our circuit. We probably want to use a longer chain. Do I have one? This is a bit long. No, it's the same length. This seems a bit longer. Don't want to make a new one right now, because as I said, it would take a while. Well, actually, adjusting the length wouldn't take too long, but still, for video recording purposes, let's keep this short. So there we go. It doesn't move at all. There's an unlimited amount of resistance over here, and if we let it go, we just have the regular resistor slowing down the battery a little bit. So that's how this works. Then there's the most funny to me piece or part of the game, which is the voltmeter. It measures the speed of the chain moving, so it measures the current, and it does so by sound. So the chain got oh no, the chain got tangled. There we go. So it does so by sound, as you can imagine from the design of this thing. The faster it spins, the higher the pitch. It makes horrible sounds. It's a really cool idea. I just really hate the sound of it. It's horrifying. It's so painful to my ears, but here we go. It's not so bad on low speeds. It's still an infuriating sound, but let's go for a bit of a higher speed by putting the 200 spin ohm resistor in here. So spin ohm is the made up unit they use for resistance instead of ohm, obviously. While the amperemeter uses spin ampere. Ampere? Do you pronounce it that way? I'm not sure. Nasty. This is so bad for my ears. I hate it, but I love it. I love the design, love the idea. It's just the sound is completely infuriating to me. Okay, another... Whoops! Don't throw the parts around. The most interesting, maybe, design or most complicated design piece is this one. It's a very simple concept in electrical engineering, because this is a junction. You just put multiple wires together. Like, you just connect them to each other. But for this system, you need something like this, which is a bit complicated. It has 3 different layers, as they all have, so you can attach multiple chains to them. But they're moving not completely independent, but they move each other, but not, like, it's not straightforward. I'm not actually quite sure how it works, but basically what it does is if the chain pulls on one level, the other 2 levels will both distribute the power from the first level. So you can basically split the energy into multiple loops or circuits with this. So it's very important for having parallel circuits, right? That's what you usually would do with just connecting wires together. So, but in this game, you actually need this thing, which is quite an interesting design. I'm sure you can see it good on camera. Like, there's a bunch of little cogs in there, and yeah, it's a tricky design. As I said, putting energy on one level will distribute the energy to the other 2 levels, which allows you to spread the energy between multiple different parts of the circuit. What else is in the first act? There's also the voltmeter. The voltmeter or transistor will measure the power like how hard it will pull on the chain. So it basically has resistance over here and has this gauge at the top. I'm sure it's a bit hard to see on the camera. Let's see if I can get it there. It's not too bad. You can see that if I spin it, it will go up and then it will release again. So it has this spring inside basically, and that's it. And yeah, it measures the spin volt. You can't probably read this, but there's, as I said, there's a gauge in here. So that's that. And last but not least, there is a Kickstarter exclusive item in here, which is a diet. Cool design with the spring, and the thing is up here. The concept is fairly straightforward. You can turn it in one way, but you can't turn it the other way. So it's no resistance in one direction and unlimited resistance or infinite resistance in the other direction. It's a Kickstarter exclusive item though, so it's not actually part of the rulebook, which surprises me. I would assume this is a concept that would be used quite often, but it's actually not. So yeah, it's not part of the puzzles at all, but you can use it to build your own little circuits and whatnot. Okay, one thing I was a bit disappointed in the first act is that the battery is a bit broken. It's not bad, it's just a visual thing. But basically there was this little cap on here and it broke, as you can see here. Well, I'm not sure if you can make it out, but it broke and fell off. It still works. I think the knot was actually attached to the thing and it just ripped out, but the knot's big enough so it's not going through there, so it's fine. For safety, I pulled out the knot and made it even bigger than that, but it didn't slip through, so it still works. It's not a problem, but it's a bit unfortunate that it broke already a little bit. Also, a chain link broke, and there's another more important thing later on. I'll show you as well. But so that's probably the biggest grip I have with this. Is seems to have some broken parts here and there, even on delivery. But I mean, it's also the first batch of Kickstarter products. So it's for first iteration. So things might not be perfect. I hope they get improved in the future, but be aware of that. You have to be a bit careful with it. You can also send them like requests. They usually replace things, but I'll talk about that in a second. Let's first take a look at the second act really quick. It has another rulebook with even more puzzles. I think there are like over 80 puzzles in this one on over 150 pages. Also more comic, more explanations. The puzzles are more complicated because we have more parts now. So this is intended to be used with the first act together. So the things become way more complicated now. And you can see we have 3 more base plates now, so we can build way bigger circuits now. We have 4 more junctions, which probably important for bigger circuits. Makes sense, right? Way more chain parts, like I think another 300, another Kickstarter exclusive diet. Again, not used in the puzzles, but hey, extra part. And another voltmeter, and another resistor, and then these pieces. So this one is really fun. It's a spool. It's basically spinning and keeping the momentum. So you can start it up and then release the energy from the spin in the circuit, which is cool. I'm looking forward to using it. Didn't made it to the second act yet. And then you have this one. I forgot what it's called, but basically, the faster it spins, the more resistance it has. And it can go in 2 different directions, which is why it has this thing over here. I think it's a condensator. Is that the correct term? I'm not sure. One of them... No, this one is fine. They both work, don't worry. But one of them has a little bit of a visual issue over there. I'm not sure if you can see it right there. Yeah. This one, there's a little piece of plastic that got removed from production. I could probably cut it out with a knife or something. It's not really a problem. It's moving, like it's making it a little bit harder for the chain, not chain, for the spring in there to move. So it's making a little bit of a clicking sound sometimes if you move it around, but it's not really stopping the piece from working. But it's a bit unfortunate over there. But as I said, you can probably remove it with a sharp knife or something. Just be careful, but it should be possible to just cut it out. Okay, maybe even with the finger. No, let's not try, but you could remove it. I'll probably do it at some point, but not right now. So that's the second act. Let's move it to the side and take a look at the power pack. The power pack is, well, most importantly, another battery. Another battery, 2 more resistors, very small ones, 50 and 100 ohm, and more puzzles. So it's another 11 puzzles, and it's supposed to be used with the first and second act. Actually, with the first act. I'm not sure if it's connecting with the second act. Not sure. I think it said somewhere with both, or like recommended with both, but you can do it with the first alone. And basically it becomes even more complex because now you have 2 batteries, right? And yeah, so it's getting bigger. Yeah, I think some of the, this solution definitely needs a second act because you need this puzzle needs a second act because you need all the base plates. As you can see, it's getting quite complex with this one. There's, as I said, a 50 spin ohm and a 100 spin ohm resistor, so lower resistance than the others, and most importantly, another battery. So this is actually the battery from the first act. I swapped them. Why did I do this? Because this one is actually broken. So as you can see, it doesn't discharge at all. At the start, it actually discharged, but sometimes it discharged internally without spinning the cogs at all. So that was weird, but it worked sometimes, but not all the times. And then at some point it just completely broke and doesn't discharge at all anymore. So I swapped it out for the one in the power pack, which only has the little visual issue I showed you earlier with the cap going off. The cap here is still on, but the battery doesn't work. So this is a big problem, obviously. But the good news is I've sent Upper Story an email, and they responded in like a few hours, and immediately said, yeah, we'll send you a new one, no questions asked. And well, so apparently the new one is on the way. So a bit unfortunate, but it didn't really stop me because I have both. But if I would only have the first act and get a broken battery and then need to wait for a replacement, that would obviously be very, very annoying. So apparently this is a rare issue that sometimes happens. So either it's not as rare or I got a bit unlucky. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm looking forward to getting the second battery. I don't need it quite yet because I'm still in the first act, so not even close to using both batteries from the first act and the power pack. But still something to keep in mind. So yeah, it's not like the product is obviously a very physical product. Turing Tumble also had some issues. Nothing really broke for me in there, but it's very finicky. This is less finicky. It's a little bit finicky sometimes to get the chain on where you want it and over the things, but it's not too bad. It works for most, but as I said, you can adjust the length quite easily. Just pop it open, remove some parts, make it shorter or longer by adding some parts, and then readjust and put it on. And since the system with the magnetic base plates works quite well, it's not too bad. But it seems like they have some like issues with sturdiness. Some pieces are broken. I mean, obviously these pieces are pretty complicated, especially battery is a pretty complicated piece of engineering here, and mechanical engineering. And so I'm not super surprised things being a little bit broken. It's unfortunate, obviously, but they're aware of most of the issues from what I've reading from emails and the Kickstarter updates. So hopefully they can improve on them in the future. But for now, it is what it is. It works fine. I get replacements for the parts that don't work, so it's not too big of a deal, but a bit unfortunate. But the game itself seems quite fun so far as I've played. The start is fairly easy. I would say it's way easier to get into than Turing Tumble. Oops, sorry, kicked the camera. I'm playing it with my 7-year-old son, and he really likes it, and he can solve the first few puzzles without much help, really, for the most part. The game says it's 8 years plus. Yeah, he seems to have not too big of an issue solving the first few puzzles. It's challenging for him, but if I just motivate him to keep trying, he usually gets there at some point and then gets really happy for figuring it out, obviously. So great game for kids, but also interesting for adults, I'd say, and especially I think it can be cool for like an educational context. It can be played as a group. You can think together about how to do it, and the cool thing is that it's like a very visual thing, right? You do it like it's electrical engineering. The problem for me, at least, always is it's very hard to grasp because it's just like you can't see electrons, right? You don't know how it works. And this is a very, very accurate representation of how electrical engineering or how electrical circuits work. Like all the concepts work basically exactly the same from what I can tell anyway. And So it gives you a really good feeling on how these things come together without doing any math and complicated formulas and stuff like that. And I like math, but I see how people like have a hard time with math and formulas. So this hands-on approach gives you a way better feeling for it, and you just grasp these concepts by trying out. Like, you can just change things around and see how it goes and see how that affects the thing. Well, like, why is it not spinning now? Oh, now it is spinning. This is spinning faster over here and slower over there. And it all, you just need to do the like, you can apply all these lessons learned to electrical engineering later on if you want to do that. So quite cool. But even if you don't want to do that, just doing the puzzles is quite fun. Like, having a physical puzzle game is always cool to me. Usually I play video games, right? But having these things is cool. It's also just, I like all these little different pieces. Like, this is such a clever design. I love it. Anyway, start rambling, so I should probably wrap this up. So yeah, this is Spintronics. Let's put the lid on again so you can see the picture. This is a German edition, obviously. It's available in multiple languages, so they don't differ much besides the text, obviously, so shouldn't be a big difference. This is Spintronics. Yeah, that's the Kickstarter edition. I'm Pion. I hope this video was useful to you. Thanks a lot for watching. Have fun and see you next time.